Hello, everyone. Good morning again. I think we are good to go. So, firstly, to all the 209 of you who have joined us this morning, a very, very warm welcome and our sincere apologies for the delay. Unfortunately, in the world of technology, these things are bound to happen, which are beyond our control. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to welcome this morning Mr. Chandrashekhar Shetty. He is a dynamic leader with over 19 years of transformative experience across multinational telecom and BFSI sectors. He has shaped people strategies at leading banks and high growth startups. He's passionate about unlocking human potential, and he has championed organizational culture, strategy, and behavioral change to drive business excellence. He's currently serving as the L&D head at Aditya Birla Capital Digital, and he also has made a lasting impact at organizations such as Totalment, Axis Bank, Reliance Healthcare, and he's a firm believer in the power of people. He combines deep industry insight with academic excellence. Excellent credentials academically as well. He's got a strategic management certificate from IIM Kozhikode, a dual postgraduate diploma from NMIMS in business management and HRM. So, welcome. Good morning, Mr. Shetty, and thank you so much for joining us. And uh, we've got about 211 people now. All of us are students from our online and offline vertical. And we've already got a lot of interesting questions. Get to those later.
Sure.
So the format is very simple. Our learners are here to listen to you, to your story. They will have a lot of questions. So to all our students, please use the chat bot and we'll try to answer them as and when we move. And with that, I pass it over to Mr. Shetty. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. First of all, apologies for the delay. Technology is something which sometimes, plays its funny ways. But I hope I'm audible and you can hear me clearly. Well, lovely to see you all this morning. I think, that you said that there are some questions which I would come to in a bit. There are a few topics, I would want to cover, and some of them are really dear to my heart. And especially speaking to young, students like you, it's always exciting to also hear your perspective or questions you may have, and share the experience I have in my career. Probably it'll help you in yours as well. So the 4 or 5 things which I want to cover today are very simple, but honestly has a big impact when it comes to making career, and especially in today's fast-paced world. There are n number of opportunities out there, but there are n number of challenges also. So how do you keep yourself sharp? How do you keep yourself up to the pace? Is something which we'll be discussing today. Feel free to make notes. Feel free to send in your questions. I will take time in the end to answer all your questions, right? Okay, great. So let's jump in. So few things which I want to talk about, especially these 5 things. You take a hand, the 5 fingers, 5 important things I want to speak to you about. I believe, Aditya, help me. I believe all of them, all the students would be either in their graduation or completed their graduation, right?
Yeah, so it's a mix of we've definitely have some undergrad students here as well, and we've
Okay.
also got some master students.
Great, great. So this is the time you're actually the students. You all are looking at, completing your studies or at the end of your studies, and looking out in the world and trying to see what is that you can, how you can make your career. What is that what excites you out there. In these times, there are a few things, I would like to tell you. Keep in mind, make certain things as a part of your life, and you'll see stark difference in how you operate, and it'll help you be successful faster. That's extremely important. So the first thing, I don't know how many of you would know this name, this person called Gordon Moore. Gordon Moore was one of the co-founders of Intel. I'm sure everyone would know Intel. So he once said that, and today it's referred to as Moore's principle or Moore's law. He simply said that The number of transistors in an integrated chipboard usually would double every 2 years. Initially, he said 1 year, then said every 2 years. And I think this was somewhere in 1965. He said that, and that still stands true today. So, what I'm trying to tell you is technology grows at this fast pace. Yeah. Going from 1 to 2 sounds simple, 2 to 4, then 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32. And then all of a sudden you see the numbers are going up fast. And that's the rate. What was say was technology will grow at a very fast pace. And we see that today. I think we all are dependent on technology like never before. And this dependency will just keep going up. Okay, so technology is an integral part. When I say technology, I'm talking about especially around information technology, especially around the speed at which we are going to newer age technologies like AI and metaverse and so on. Okay. And I'm sure everyone now today knows this term AI and probably would have used certain forms of AI. But keeping yourself abreast with technology, knowing what's happening in technology, getting to know the changes early on helps you prepare for it. So that's the first point I like to leave you with. Super important. Tech will change at a very fast pace. You need to keep yourself updated at that rate. Very important. Technology will come into our lives and change the way we do things. And we need to keep learning that. We need to continuously adopt new technology to be in sync of how the world is operating. Yeah. Like Moore's law, if he says that the number of transistors in the integrated chip goes double every 2 years, one question I'd like to ask you, are you doubling your knowledge every 2 years? That's the kind of investment we need to make into ourselves, right? Being the head of learning development, I can't say that I had a department and that should be it. In fact, so much so it becomes my responsibility to keep myself updated with so many things around in my role in technology as well, because technology also impacts learners nowadays. So hence it's critical. Um, I would suggest in this area, read a lot. There is so much information floating to us through internet, through specific video channels from YouTube, through, of course, various forms of media. Keep yourself abreast with what's happening in technology. There was a time when technological developments used to happen somewhere in one corner of the world, and till the time that used to reach it used to be years. Nowadays it's just matter of days and even hours, right? How much time did the Ghibli trend took to take over the world? Maybe a few hours. Yeah. When chat gpt was launched in a couple of years back, right, it took them about 4 months to reach 4 million, right? That's what Sam Alter said. 4 months, or I think less than 4 months. For the new the image based chat gpt option took maybe 3 or 4 hours to reach 1 million users. So that's the rate people are adopting technology. Yeah. So very important. Use internet. Use all the medium around you to keep yourself abreast of what's happening in technology. Right. You may use some. You may not use some. Knowing about technology gives you the power of being aware, and gives you give you that sharper edge to understand what's happening in the world of technology and maybe put it to use in your day-to-day life. So that's very, very critical. Any professional today requires technology. Any professional can leverage technology, should leverage technology, and that can only happen when you are absolutely aware and you are adept and agile to adopt technology. So that's the first point I'm leaving you with. The second important point I want to leave you with is skills required for any kind of role or skill required for a generation or an era keeps upgrading itself. So you need to keep upgrading your skills. Yeah. Like in the L&D world, we used to say that's learning 1.0, which was a classroom learning. At some point in time, when we used to imagine training people, it was always a classroom, and then there are chairs and there's a projector, and we use presentation. I think that has drastically changed now. Yeah. So skills required to train in a classroom is absolutely different than skills required to train over a Zoom call like this. Okay, so you need to upgrade. Similarly, skills required in your role, in any professional's role, keep evolving, and we need to keep updating accordingly. Okay, so keep pace with the changing times. Understand how future skills are evolving. Okay, one of the simple examples to tell you, I would like to keep leave you with is at some point in time, I think when we used to talk about programming and coding, I think these were all tech jargons, and usually the programming part and the coding part was left with the tech guys and the programmers, right? But I think nowadays programming has become so simple that you can actually program. You can write codes in far simple ways than earlier, right? That kind of knowledge will give you the sharper edge. In fact, in today's world, I would suggest everyone should do some kind of or learn some kind of programming language. Yeah, the most common today is Python, that helps you, uh, kind of play around with larger data sets and so on. But whenever you learn a programming language, what it does is it simply shapes the way you think. It shapes the way you will, you understand logic, you understand programming logic. Okay, that gives you that upper edge of understanding, and that gives you, you may do one programming language, but you can apply the fundamentals across. Okay, it's an logical understanding which you will be empowered with. I would suggest take up any Python today. I think has become so democratized. It's available so easily on Coursera, any other courses. I'm not sure Shoolini is also offering. If that's the case, please do sign up for any such courses, any programming language courses. It really helps. When you get into the world outside and you decide to pursue your passion in certain field, I would suggest always keep an eye for what are the future skills required for this particular role, for this particular field, for this particular sector of the industry. You should always keep updating yourself with the future skills required, and then try and acquire those skills. Yeah, so very critical, very very critical. Okay, so that's the second point I like to leave with. Future skills, always remember, always keep yourself abreast of what's the skills required in the future, and continuously update yourself completely. Always polish yourself. Upskilling is required. And now this connects me to the third point, which I want to talk about. And the third point is quite simple, but I think it's even more than a suggestion. It's a habit which you need to inculcate. That's being a curious learner. You know, when I say learner, what do I mean is be so curious about stuff which impacts you, and turn that curiosity into learning about these topics. Yeah. So for example, my curiosity is into a lot of mechanics, right? So I love to understand how things work, especially mechanically. So I spend some time also watching YouTube videos, animations, reading about it, etc. That's probably from a hobby perspective. I also turn this curiosity around in my role. So my role involves developing people as well, developing people in an organization. And my curiosity always is, how do different set of people learn? Some people do learn very easily by reading books. Some people have to get into the role, really try and roll up their sleeves, try and understand the nitty-gritties, and that's how they learn and they evolve. So there are different formats people learn, and what's the best way we can offer? How can we mold certain programs to be able to offer to all kind of learn? So these are various curiosities I always have, and I know it's a part of always trying to do experiments and learn from it, and implement the learnings. That's continuously my curiosity. It helps me a lot in my role. Similarly, for whichever field you choose, whichever sector you would want to go, always be curious about this. And the best way to further kind of leverage this curiosity is try and read various articles on this. Try and Today there's a lot of YouTube videos available on almost, I think, all areas, sectors, or fields out there. Try and learn from there. If you can get in touch with experts in that particular area, that will be great. You can hear experts. You have a lot of interviews, podcasts of people coming and talking about their particular field and area. Do listen to them. Yeah. So today, if I'm here, I can tell you about my perspective on a certain field, certain area. Similarly, someone else in the same field may have their perspective, and it doesn't necessarily needs to be one needs to be right, another needs to be wrong. Okay, both can be correct. How do you use and you utilize that information is something which is gonna change the course, right? So it's extremely important that you be curious about the field and the role, or the career you want to make. Try and get into this. Look at what are the future skills out there. Leverage this curiosity to learn more about this. Hear different experts. Read different articles. That will just enhance your knowledge. So that's the third point I'm leaving you with, right? I hope you're making notes on these 3 points. There are two more points I'd like to talk about, and they are very critical. Okay, and today's day and age, in all of this, and I'm sure some of you may have come across this, or some of you definitely will come across this in the future, is to ensure that you're always standing with your integrity. Integrity is super, super important. You will be tempted by shortcuts. You will be tempted, by someone will try and lure you into wrongdoings, wrong things. I can tell you this, that doesn't lead to a great ending. Integrity is super, super important. Hold your integrity closest to your heart. Do not let go of that because of someone else. Do not let go of that because of some short term temptations you may have. Do not let go of this because you think you are the one who's lucky enough to get through. You're not. You won't. You will just get through maybe for a while, but then the end is not that great. We have seen n number of examples. I think I don't need to talk about this, but integrity throughout your career, throughout your life, in your personal life, in your professional life, is super important. It takes time, effort. It takes a very strong mindset to do that, but very, very critical. Any point in time in your life you think you're getting lured into something which is wrong, unethical, illegal at times, please stop, take a moment, pause, reflect, move out of that. Right? It does not lead you to a great ending. Yeah. And of course, the guilt which follows is crazy. So, very, very important thing, integrity. Hold it closest to your heart. And the last point, point number 5, but the most critical point, I always talk about this to students like you, and something which I don't know how many of you will follow, but even if one person does this, I think my purpose will be solved. I think my whole effort of spending this time with you will be solved, and will give me great joy. Is manage your finances well. Very critical. Managing finances is an extremely, extremely important part. I see There are n number of examples. People who have made good amount of money, they lost it in short time. People who earn good amount of money, but they struggle because they have taken too much liability. They have kind of do not have discipline around money. I see a lot of people, they just are so tempted with, materialistic stuff, and they would want to buy things which they don't afford, and then they land in trouble. I'm not saying don't go and buy anything. I'm saying that you need to manage your finances very well. The best way to do that is start saving. Okay. Start saving small. Okay. If you start the moment you start earning, start saving. That's the best way. Think about 10%, 15% of whatever you earn. Just keep it aside. Don't think that as if that's your money. Start putting into investment. There are so many investment options. Yeah, there are. I think SIPs become the most favorite of everyone. But of course, you can decide the best investment options for you. Okay. But I would suggest start investing. Even it could be as small as say 500 rupees, 1,000, 2,000 bucks a month. Start investing. You over a period of time, you'll not even realize the power of compounding. You'll after 10 years, you'll thank me not now, but maybe after 20 years, 10 years, when you'll realize that amount compounding over a period of time has become a really big amount. Okay. So investing early and having the discipline to save and invest every month and do this consistently, that is extremely important. And when you have this lump sum, the amount of the amount of freedom you get, the amount of leverage you can take from there is just immense. Okay. As we grow, as we go through our life and our career, our needs change. You guys just getting out of college, you will go out and try and get a job for yourself. Some of you may start something on your own and stuff like that. You're trying to just build a career. Some After some time, you'd want to have some kind of stable income. And I'm sure most of you get married after a few years, have a family. Then you're supposed to be providing for your family, supporting your family, and then that's how life keeps taking a turn. Your needs may evolve over a period of time. What stays consistent is if you have a stable saving, if you have a solid, lump sum amount kept as saving, that always gives you that leverage which you can pick up over your career, across your career, across your lifespan. It's very important. Hence, managing your finances is extremely important. I see a lot of young kids, the moment they get into a job, a couple of months' salary, and then they are offered credit cards, and they take a credit card and they use it. But then they fall into the debt trap. So, super important, don't do that. Only spend what you can afford to spend. Okay. Any kind of lending, remember that lending comes in very easy, but that is something which you need to pay off. If you have a credit card of say 2 lakhs, it's easy for me to go and just swipe a card and spend that 2 lakh, but then I have to pay it back, right? So keep that in mind always. Using credit card is a very good option until you have the discipline to pay it off. That's my only suggestions if you want to go towards any kind of credit card, etc. So using financial instruments are great. There are a lot of such financial instruments, but you need to have the discipline around these financial instruments. Otherwise, you can easily land into the debt trap and financial troubles. Okay, which you would never want. Hence, my going back to my first point is financial freedom is extremely important. Start saving. The moment you start getting your first income, start saving, and then you may not realize the power of this now. You'll realize the power of this 10 years from now. Okay, and start investing small, super small, but start doing this. Yeah. So those are some points I like to talk about for people who like to read, and especially people who are especially students who you are guys are just finishing your studies and trying to go out and get a job. There are two books I will recommend. Okay, two very important books. One is, I love this book, and I think it has given me a different perspective of how do you manage money, etc. It's called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. A small book, a very, very small book, but super powerful. So read that. I think a great read. And for people who are just getting into a job, trying to get a job, finished your education, or right at the end of your education, I would recommend a book called The First 90 Days, okay, by Michael Watkins. Yeah. This book talks about how do you manage your first 90 days in any job. It's a great book. I think it gives you a lot of insights about, what are things you should do when you land into a company and you take up a job, right? So the first 90 days, how it should be, what you should look out for, how do you influence people. Great book on that. Spend time to read. Okay, it's a fairly thick book. There are a lot of chapters there, but great, very important. So that's something which I can recommend. Yeah, two great books. I'm sure there are so many other books, but these are, I think, I recommend to students. I think first, these two books you should definitely read before you start your career. It's so powerful, right? And of course, once you get a hang of it, you can always go to Naval Ravikant and Psychology of Money, and there's so many other books which you can read. But you start with this. Start with this. If you've never read about money, great books to start with. Yeah. So here are my five important points for you. First one, like I said, tech. Keep yourself updated. Super important. Spend your free time in reading, updating yourself. Point number two, skills. Keep changing. Keep upskilling continuously. I'm probably fairly in my career. I still keep myself updating. There are about three or four Coursera courses still there, which I keep doing it as and when I get time. So there are various ways of upskilling, continuously upskill. Point number three, be a learner for life. Turn your curiosity into learning. Be a very, very curious learner in any field of your interest. Yeah, that curiosity, the joy you get from learning when you're curious is great, and that stays with you. That's point number three. Point number four, integrity. Hold it close to your heart. People look up to people who are strong in integrity, and I'm sure that will help you throughout your career and also your personal life. And the last point, important, like I said, manage your finances well. If you really want to take advice on finances, I would suggest look up to your parents. You will get great advice from your parents for managing finances. Yeah, and of course, I recommend two books. Take time to read these two books, especially if you have vacations coming up. Spend some time reading these books. It will give you some great insights which you can practically implement from finance perspective. And the first 90-day book is absolutely great for people who just finishing your graduation, planning to get into a job. It just opens up your mind, right? So yeah, so there are a few things I wanted to share, and I hope this was helpful. Yeah, and I would love to take up any questions you may have. I saw some pop-ups coming up. I couldn't read all the questions, but yes.
So, firstly, thank you so much, Mr. Shetty. That was some solid advice for our young students. And काफी questions आ गए हैं, and they're quite interesting. And I've been having a read at all of them. But before we get into questions, I also want to just aggregate everything uh, and also ask a few questions that would help
Sure.
all our listeners. So let's start because given the generation that is currently enrolled in our courses, it's a very, very different world, a very different world that probably you and I had in college. So let's start with the very basic questions. Let's start with everyday changes. So, according to you, what are the small daily habits that people could sort of include in their schedule that would have a long lasting impact in their career?
Great question. So I think first two part. I will answer this in two parts. First, understand what habits you have. Okay, I love the book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Great book. Okay, Why I'm saying understand what habits you have, because if you want to develop any new habit, as per James Clear, you connect it to the habit you have already, and it's very easy to kind of learn these new habits. And the second part, if you have to ask me, what is that habit? I would suggest any college grad or students to take up. First thing, and I think this generation kind of lacks doing that. So I would suggest start watching news. Okay, be a little conscious on what kind of news you'd like to tend to watch, but start making yourself aware of what's happening out in the world. Whether it is newspaper, whether it is news on television, or whether it's an app on your phone. I use InShots. Very quick. I can scroll through a lot of news, but it's important that you get to know what's happening out in the world. Socio-political environment, very critical. You should understand what's happening out in the world, what's happening to the economy, what's happening to the share market, what's happening with the large companies in the country, what's happening with our resources in the organization, where does our GDP stands. Super critical. And and I may sound a little toward leaning towards finances, economics, etc., but not necessary that only finance guys should listen to that. In fact, this is required for everyone. Okay, so super critical. Understand how your region, your state is growing, what's happening, what are the new policies coming out, new government policies, changes in political environment impacts everyone. It impacts not only our lives, it impacts our jobs, it impacts the way people behave around. So it's critical. So you understand this. So that's the first thing I would say. Always keep yourself updated. It's super critical, and especially if you're especially finance students, you should just build a religious habit that every day in the morning, like for me, the moment I sit and have tea in the morning, I need to go out to the newspaper and read something, or either I'll pull out my iPad and read the news on in shorts. So that's one critical habit. I think that's this habit is just fading out, but pick it up. It gives you great understanding of so many topics around you.
Yep. And, I think it's very interesting that you mentioned that. I think these small things really have a long and lasting impact. Now, but we also want to ask you something in regards to your life.
Okay.
सबकी life में ऐसा कुछ moment
Yeah.
होता है. In our, it usually happens in either our college life or in our first job, where you just have that one moment and you have that solid realization that okay, ऐसा भी हो सकता है life में, and that kind of changes you, makes you more cautionary. So anything like that, any moment of adversity, any hiccup, any challenge that you probably faced in your career that changed your mindset entirely. I also have one, but I would like to hear your story first.
So, I'll be very blunt with this. Okay. So,
Yes.
in some point in my career, um, I didn't have a team. I have. It's called an individual contributor role.
Yeah.
Basically, you're supposed to do
I see
everything
this.
alone.
Yeah.
You report to someone. Okay. And then over a period of time, you get promoted. You move to a role where you are managing people and stuff like that. So I think I went through this change of shifting from a mindset of individual contributor to managing a team a few years back. But I think that shift was a game changer for me, and in some form or shape also shifted my mindset. I think that's where I realized you can't do everything that you would want to do with your own hands. You need people, you need support, right? But then again, you can't always say I need 10 people, I'll hire 10 people in my team, and yes, we'll change the world. That never happens. Managing people, giving right set of instructions, having a vision, you communicate that vision very clearly with your teams. making them understand what you're gunning for. You will have challenges. How do we manage challenges? What kind of mindset the team should follow? All of this is so critical, and I think those are skills I learned way back. But I think I still cherish this, and I think keep learning this. And new versions of this every time. I have different set of team members, and I have different teams to work with. So super critical. I think that's where, and I was working with a fairly large bank at that time, and you this shift. I mean, I had managed smaller teams earlier. This was a larger team, and then it was also a role where I'm collaborating not only with my team but so many other teams across the organization, right? So influencing people, communicating your challenges, communicating your objective, and also at the same time influencing them to act in your favor to be able to get your work done. It's so very critical. Yeah, so I think that was something realization for me, said communication clarity, and also influencing people is so very important, especially working in organization and large organizations. Extremely important. I think there are so many organizations which do come out and also talk about influencing people is one of the critical skills, especially for the management cadre. Yeah, so I think that that is something which I like to leave the students also with, because it's important. It's we may think, I'll start a job and I'll get everything done, but then people skills, communication skills is so very critical. You're on mute, Aditya, I think.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No worries.
I think communication and this is what we feel that, especially at Shoolini, a lot of our students are coming from tier two, tier three cities. A lot of them are first generation learners as well.
Yes.
So getting a degree, of course, is a prerequisite for a job, but how to navigate the corporate space, how to get into that mindset of, sorry about that, of working and everything, that also plays a very pivotal part. So I think the book that you mentioned, The First 90 Days, I think that is going to be an interesting read for a lot of them, because
Yes.
that just acclimatizes them कि आगे जब ऑफिस जाएंगे तो कैसे बात करनी है, कैसे काम निकलवाना है, and all of that. And I also mentioned that I have one story in terms of what really changed my mindset in my career was in my first job, and I've been a business development salesperson throughout my life. तो मैं इवेंट सेल्स में काम करता था, एंड वी ऑल टॉक अबाउट बिल्डिंग अ पाइपलाइन एंड अ फनल, और हम एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं चलो ठीक है, मेरे पास इतने सारे अभी ये प्रोग्राम्स हैं, ये मैं क्लोज करूंगा, मेरे को इतने हजार पैसे मिलेंगे, एंड उससे मैं यूरोप जाऊंगा, मैं छुट्टी मनाऊंगा, मैं ये करूंगा, एंड यू स्टार्ट प्लानिंग, राइट? And I remember that in one day, I had three contracts out, and I was going to make a very, very solid commission on those deals.
Mm.
It would sort out my entire year in terms of my number. I think in a matter of 1.5 hours, वो तीनों मेरे contracts reject हो गए, and I was back to zero with absolutely nothing to look forward to. And I think that is the day where I understood
Right.
the power of forecasting, the power of projections, and it's not a yes unless and until आपके पास written में उसका confirmation हो, or if you have any other solid buying signal from Brazil.
Mm.
So
Mm.
similarly, I see a lot of people who interview for jobs यहाँ पे, and it is very competitive, right?
It is.
Not a done deal till it's not a done deal. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
has been my learning, not to get too excited too fast.
Correct, correct. And just to add to that, there's sometimes I'm just reflecting also on so many incidents in my past. Is one thing I always suggest to students, even when we are interviewing for certain different roles, I always tell them, you be very clear on what excites you. You know, organizations are, I think they're very kind to listen to you and also place you in the right role. Every organization has a requirement for people to join, right? However, if you do not communicate your, or you're not clear with your interest or your areas which you'd like to pick up as a career, yeah, what will happen is you're then probably not a right fitment in this particular role. That's a larger problem for the organization, for you as well. So what happens is you'll probably end up wasting years together, and then you realize this is not something I want to do. I want to switch my career, and then people do take this leap. They do. And then so if it reminds me of an incident where way back, I think this was I think first year of my job, or so that's the time. um I think 1.5 year in the job, and that's the time you are getting promoted, right? So this organization I was in was had three options. So either I can go into training and become a trainer, or I can become a team leader on the floor, or I can go in quality, right? You can apply for all three. I applied for all three. I got selected for all three. There's an interview round. I went through all three. I went through the assessment rounds for all three. Okay. I got selected for being a quality coach. The results for that came in first. Okay. So my boss was like, "Do you want to take this up?" So I said, "No, I want to wait. I want to look at training. I want to become a trainer." He said, "No, but this is a better job." So then came in the results for team leader. So my boss like, "Are great, get in." I mean, there is no way looking back. And I said, "No, training." I said, "अबे training ही करना था तो ये दो क्यों किया?" I said, "पता नहीं क्यों किया, but मेरे को जाना तो यही है." Right? So when the results came in, I scored like 4.9 out of 5, and I was like right there. I was like, "See, this is what I want to do. This is what my interest is." And 19 years from there, not look back. So when you're so clear in the role you want to get into, it just helps you boost your career. It just helps you in tremendous ways. Okay, so have that clarity. Spend some time. Speak to people around you. If you want to get into a particular field, go and speak to the people already in that field. They will give you great insights, and then you decide. But it's important that you make up your mind.
Yeah, I think having that clarity, and I think it's also, and it's okay to not have that clarity very early on as well, right?
It's
Like,
absolute. That's what I said. It's absolutely okay. Hence, he said go and speak to people already in the role. Okay, you may take up a job which comes to you, and you're not sure कि शायद करना है नहीं करना है. You want to take it up right now. Take it up. Go out, explore the world, and then you decide. The moment you get into an organization, you are working in a particular role, but you see people around in different roles. You understand various functions in depth. You understand how this function operates. जो बाहर से देखता है, अंदर से बहुत अलग होता है. So
बिल्कुल.
once you're in an organization, you're looking at this, and then you decide this is an area of my interest. I want to move, do that. That's also fine. But always be curious to understand and decide on something for your career. If
Yeah.
you're just floating around saying "chalo jo aata hai wo lenge," probably that's not building your career. When
Yeah.
you're building a career, you're thinking consciously, this is the area I want to go, and you're taking actions toward it, right? If you don't know which area you want to go, then hunt for it. That is also action to build your career. That is absolutely okay not knowing कि मुझे पता नहीं क्या करना है. मैंने आज फूड टेक कर लिया, बट आगे क्या करूं? फूड टेक, आई थिंक रॉन्ग एग्जांपल. फूड टेक इज स्टिल वेरी. एक एमबीए कर लिया. अभी एमबीए कैन लीड यू टू सो मेनी सेक्टर्स. Okay, which sector I should go, which should be my interest. Not knowing, absolutely okay, but go and hunt. Which sector excites you the most? Hunting, trying to get more information is also steps towards building a career. Yeah, but
Absolutely.
then that has to be done consciously.
Yeah, and I think, and that's a very, very good point. And I think this is something that I personally relate to as well. कि जब मैंने अपना career start किया था, and when you said कि career moves, so and I think a lot of us have done this in very early stage of our career कि हम career moves नहीं करी, हमने job moves करी हैं.
Jobs move.
Yeah, ताकि अगर यहाँ पे थोड़े एक्स्ट्रा पैसे मिल रहे हैं, चलो ठीक है, ये कर लेते हैं. And then you keep jumping, and that's okay, but after a while, and this is something I want to share with everyone. After a while, you have to be held accountable because when you go for interviews, तो वो
Yes.
देखेंगे यार तुमने 6 महीने यहाँ काम किया फिर 8 महीने यहाँ and you can't always say कि yeah I moved because of money and so after a while you have to stabilize that and also once you stabilize that bit in your resume आपको एक अलग confidence भी आएगा फिर आप you're not then you are in the controlling seat of the
Yes.
when you are interviewing because
Absolutely.
you show that आपने 6 साल 7 साल एक कंपनी में टिक के काम किया है then it shows that you have the skills you have the mindset and also you are somewhat of a loyalist which is
Yes.
again a very very important thing in the way the world is moving so, and I also want to, given the fact we have just a few minutes, I want to aggregate a few questions that we've got. Uh,
Hmm.
so, one is should I be a master of several skills or just master one niche area skill?
Good question. So, I mean, there's definitely saying that you can be a master of, you can,
Yeah.
you
Jack of
know,
all trade, master of
yeah,
none.
you jack of all trade, master of none. Not necessarily. In today's world, it's important that you have a niche skill. However, extremely important that you have multiple other smaller skills which will help you enhance this niche skill. Like I said, awareness of various other fields gives you that power. Okay, like I said, go out and learn a programming language just to know the logic of it. You may not want to become a programmer or a person who codes for a living, but then having that knowledge kind of improves your mindset. It gives you a different level of thinking, right? Which is very critical. Hence, uh, I say I would simply answer this question saying definitely decide on your niche skill that you would invest all your heart, mind, soul, and money to kind of develop that. But having other skills peripheral to this is also super critical to be very strong in this niche skill.
Right. I think, you know, again, beautifully summed up there. And just to riff off that, someone has also asked that, let's say I'm a finance professional. So the skills I should be acquiring, should it be related to finance, or should I also go into other areas of an organization, for example, human resources, marketing, procurement? So I'd like to hear your take on that when it comes to upskilling.
So, like I said, these are various skills, right? Being into finance, managing finance for an organization is one skill, which is one role which requires a certain set of skills, of course, aligned to this. Moving to human resources will require certain set of skills which may be very different from finances. Can you move like this? Definitely, you can. There is no hard and fast rule that you can't. Okay, you can definitely, but then provided you have these kind of skills. So if someone in say human resources wants to go in IT, can they move? Yes, they can, but then you have to acquire those skills first, right? There are professionals already in that field. You need to be at par with them. Only then will you be able to make that move, right? But then there is, I think, in today's world, at least I've not seen anywhere there isn't hard and fast. You can't move. You can always move. People are happy to do that. People are happy to hire people with cross knowledge functionality. Sorry, cross functional knowledge. And with variety of experience, that brings in some fresh eyes, some fresh perspective. But then at the same time, the basic skills required for that particular role should also be there. So you need to acquire those basic skills to be able to move, right? And hence, it's critical that you start kind of designing your own career in your mind first. What is the area you'd like to take up, and then based on that, you'll have some interest. You'd want to look at certain areas, start researching on that. That will give you more understanding whether you'd want to move in this field. Then leverage that curiosity to build your skills toward that. Yeah.
This one very interesting question is, how do I continue on my skill development journey when there's a dip in my motivation?
That's great. I think that happens so often, and it will keep happening in your career. You will have peaks and valleys. You will have times where you're just over the moon, and then you'll have times in your career where you're down and out, and you just don't feel like even talking to anyone. um, there could be some days, and could be sometimes even a phase of time where you feel very low. I think what will help you here, especially in these times where you're down, what will help you throughout your career are your habits, your daily habits which you build. If you build a habit to just pick up a book and read, if you're down and out, you will feel like reading a book. Your habit is, just to go out, take a walk, and be out in the nature. When you're down and out, you'll feel like, being in a place where it's more serene and out in the nature. Similarly, what's the habit you build? If you build a habit of, kind of picking up some skill, learning, and this has happened with me as well. And some time back, and I think that habit has evolved over a period of time. But I used to leverage YouTube videos a lot, especially for learning. And when I used to feel low, I used to just switch on a video of an interesting topic, and that kind of, just changes my mood and kind of brings me out of that place. And I'm learning something new and watching this video, and probably then YouTube starts throwing a couple of more videos. I love TED Talks. I think TED Talks are great. It's a great platform to hear these individuals who are accomplished, and they share such valuable insights. I think that's great. So I think those are a few things I used to do, and I think it should help everyone.
Absolutely. And see, like for me personally, I've realized that I also want to read. I also want to, consume smart things. Um, and I think it's all about finding what really excites you. So if I mention books, there is a very particular genre of books that I like to read. Um, there's one of my favorite books is a book called Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It's the story of how the brand Nike was created, and books like Ride of a Lifetime, which is the Walt Disney CEO story. So I know I like these kind of books. So I think if you want to get into something as basic as reading, which again, to answer a question that was in the chat, how do you communicate clearly, like Shetty sir, and how do you, become a crisp and a clear communicator is by reading. I think the reading is something that gives you confidence. It opens your worldview, and it's something that you can do at your own pace anywhere, anytime. But if you are also someone who's struggling to pick up a book, try reading a book about a topic that excites you. It doesn't necessarily have to be information. It could be about sports, it could be about cricket, it could be about history, whatever areas you like in life. And there's a book for everything, I feel.
And I think there are various versions of a book now. Like, there's a Kindle, of course, Kindle is still reading, but there's
Yeah.
an audio book. There are short videos made on YouTube which kind of summarizes a book very well.
Yeah.
There's so many various ways to consume this. So if you're not a person, if you're a person who just opens a book and you start feeling sleepy, then there are other ways to kind of gain the same knowledge, right? So use that. There's no harm in using any other platform. So I travel a lot, right? For me, not always carrying, especially books like the first 90 days, a thick book. Carrying
Yeah.
that around is not worth. So either I'll refer to a Kindle, or sometimes while I'm driving, I do travel a lot in the car. So Audible is my choice, right? So you can just listen to the book, right? Then there are multiple books I have not read physically. I've just listened to it, and I know about the book. So various ways to consume. Use that. There's no
Yeah.
harm. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think so Kindle is the best investment that I've ever made in a piece of
Yeah.
technology. And because it solves all my problems. I can read it wherever I can hold it in one hand.
Yes.
And
And
because I
Kindle is now on the
travel,
phone. I mean, you don't even
yeah,
need a
it's
Kindle device. It's on the phone. It's on iPad, and you don't need a separate device. So
true,
great.
true. And, so I think that covers the whole books conversation. And I think, we are also right at the end of
Yeah. Yeah.
our session. So,
I'm just scrolling through a few questions. Probably we will not be able to answer
free
all of
to,
them.
yeah, you can take
But
whichever.
what I just saw one question. I think that's quite a common question which comes across, and I like to put people to ease to that is, how can I speak English so fluently, especially and someone has written that, how can I speak English like you so fluently? It comes with practice, okay? But don't sweat over it. Just don't sweat over it. I think what I see students, they feel a little down and out saying, I don't know English, and they feel that they're missing out on something. You're not. Trust me, you're not. If you can communicate in any language, okay. I have worked in an organization where I've got very senior guys. They struggle to talk English, but they are sharp. They are crazy sharp. They are fantastic at what they do. Doesn't matter if you speak English or no. Don't sweat over it. Over a period, but if you really want to learn English, speak. I mean, find a group, find a set of people who you can interact with at home. It just kind of practice will help, right? Watching videos will help. You can repeat that if you really want to speak. That kind of gives you the momentum. The whole crux when you really want to speak in English versus Hindi. You speak. Let's say I should speak Hindi a lot. I still do. But if Hindi is your first language, you want to switch to English. What usually happens with us is we think in Hindi, We translate that in English, and that's how we speak. That's where the whole, there's a pause, and then we
Yeah, yeah.
fumble with grammar, and so many things go wrong in a sentence construction. So
Hmm.
the switch which you need to make in your mind, you start thinking in English, and trust me, you learn English very fast. You start
Absolutely.
thinking in English. That's one clue I'll leave you with. But very, very honestly, do not sweat thinking. If you know English, if you don't know English, you'll be left behind. You will not be proud of the language you can speak, but you should be able to communicate effectively. Any language,
Hmm.
Hindi, Punjabi, you should be effective in communication.
Absolutely. And I think I just want to take one bit from what you said, which, and I've said this in previous webinars as well. Speaking good English is not a level of your intellect, right? It is just a language. Or unfortunately, the way the country is designed, you will feel कि you are behind अगर आप अच्छी इंग्लिश ना बोल. मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ. जब मैं कॉलेज में था, मेरा जो रूममेट था वो जर्मनी से था. उसका फोन जर्मन में था, उसकी बुक्स जर्मन में थी. एवरीथिंग अबाउट एनीथिंग इट डिड वाज इन जर्मन, राइट? और इंडिया में अगर आपका फोन हिंदी में है, अगर आपकी बुक हिंदी में, पीपल विल हैव अ नोशन अबाउट यू, बट दैट इज ओनली एंड ओनली इन इंडिया. दुनिया में कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. या यू वी ऑल आर all most of us here are trilingual. We speak Hindi, we speak English, we also speak, most of us also speak a regional language. So be proud of that.
Be
And
proud of that. Yes. I
so,
used to work with telephone company, and we had one incident I'd like to share. If you're getting conscious of the language,
yeah.
this is about our perception. This is purely about a perception. You wipe that perception out, doesn't really matter. I had a few friends. I mean, we made friends. There were these trainers who were based out of Australia. They came down to Mumbai to work on a project, etc. And when they got to know about Hindi and the rich history behind, etc., two of these trainers, I mean, I'm not even lying, this is a true story. Two of these trainers actually tattooed a Sanskrit shlok on their hand,
Interesting. Wow.
and they've gone back to Australia. And this is a language we speak every day. I mean,
Yeah.
be proud of it.
Correct.
All I'm trying to say is, if you really want to be effective in your career, you need to able, I mean, how should I put this across? You should be able to crack how you're communicating to the person in front of you. You should be able to help the other person understand your perspective. Language doesn't matter. आप हिंदी में वही चीज बोलो, उतनी ही इफेक्टिवली बोल सकते हो, right? And then over a period of time, you'll realize this switch is so, I mean, smooth, that you will not bother about languages. And today, if you ask me to talk in Hindi or English, it doesn't really matter. अगर मैं हिंदी में बात करूंगा, मैं सेम चीज बात कर सकता हूँ, उतनी ही इफेक्टिवली बात कर सकता हूँ, राइट? और मुझे ये सोचना नहीं पड़ता. बट द ओनली थिंग विच इज हैपनिंग इन माय माइंड, लाइक आई सेड, जब मैं हिंदी में बात करता हूँ, मैं हिंदी में सोच रहा होता हूँ.
Hmm.
ट्राई एंड मेक द स्विच. वो आपके दिमाग में स्विच होना शुरू हो जाएगा. आप हिंदी में उतनी ही इफेक्टिवली बात करना शुरू कर दो.
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल.
इंग्लिश
And
में इंग्लिश में सोचना शुरू करो, इंग्लिश में आप उतनी इफेक्टिवली बात करना शुरू कर दो. वो एक स्विच होता है, वो थोड़ा सा प्रैक्टिस लगेगा, ठीक है? वो प्रैक्टिस कीजिए. इफ यू आर स्ट्रगलिंग विद इंग्लिश, देयर आर फ्यू फ्रेंड्स विथ यू. वो जो 4-5 लोगों का आपका फ्रेंड्स का ग्रुप है, उसमें ना इंग्लिश बोलना शुरू करिए. स्टार्टिंग में थोड़ी शर्म आएगी, थोड़ा हिचकिचाओगे, ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम. बट 2 महीने बाद आप सभी लोग बहुत अच्छा इंग्लिश बोलना शुरू कर दो. बट यू नीड टू
brilliant.
स्टार्ट. You need to
Yeah, and
start.
consistency, right? I think when you start, just don't stop. So,
Yes.
yeah. With that, Mr. Shetty, I think we are right at the end of the session. And thank you so much for taking out the time
My
on
pleasure.
Saturday morning to speak with us. I'm sure a lot of us are going to go back with a fresh new perspective and energized for the future ahead. And with that, I also want to invite you to our campus in Solan. Please, if you
Sure.
find yourself
Sure.
struggling with the city pace, please take a few days off and come speak to our students on campus. And we'd love to host you and arrange more of these sessions for our
So
students.
I was there a couple of years back. I think it's been a couple of years and not been to Shuli.
All right. Okay. Yeah, you'll see a lot of changes. We're adding a building
Yeah.
every 6 months. So
Great,
please
great.
feel free to come visit us again, and we'd love to have you.
Sure.
And For all of the students, thank you so much for joining. All of these sessions are available on Shoolini.online. And if there's anything else that you need, please let your student coordinators know. We'll try getting a lot of these unanswered questions accumulated and answered by Mr. Shetty. And with that, have a great weekend, everyone. And we'll see you next week. Again, thank you, Mr. Shetty.
Thank you so much, everyone, joining in. My pleasure. Take care. All the best.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.